we got an all-star, another all-star here, Robbie. I mean, this guy is just an amazing entrepreneur in the world of finance, the financial world, investment world, and helping people, really reach their dreams, helping, business people, small business people, as well as large, really, reach their dreams in their lives by helping them, put their money in the right places and advising he's got opportunities to understand entrepreneurship better than any of us, because he's in front of entrepreneurs every day, helping them invest their money, helping them protect their investments and all that. So I've got many friends that are invested in Brent and his company, and they rave about his service. They rave about his knowledge and what his business delivers every day to their long, hard-earned dollars, right? So you're gonna get a lot out of this podcast. I'm excited as heck. Brent Brodesky, welcome, baby.
Thanks for having me, Gary. I've been looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot for being on. I know I talked to you about this before. It's hard. You're a busy guy. Hard to get you nailed down, but I'm happy to get you on. And you're going to be a wealth of information to old guys like me and young guys like Robbie in the world today, and gals that are looking for the edge in their industry. And then also what do you do with your money when you earn a little bit of money, right? What do you do to invest it, or what do you do to protect it, or make it work for you? So that's what we're here to talk to you today about. And we usually start from the beginning. Brent, we don't want to just hear your business story, which is you've got a great one. We want to hear about Brent and your upbringing, where you came from. And I know a little bit about it, and I know it's a great story. Your family, your wife now, your friends now, your family, your kids now. We'd like to know about the family background, and then get into the business and the entrepreneurial brain of Brent Brodesky. So fire up, buddy. Start out with that family and growing up in the beautiful metropolis of Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah, no, I born and raised out in Rockford, Illinois, out in the sticks of Chicago, if you will. It's kind of the only place that I've ever been. Didn't figure I'd stay there long run, but I have, and it's worked out great. Was the oldest of 6 children. My mother Sharon and father Ray, strong Catholics, and we grew up in a very devoted Catholic family, daily mass and daily novenas, and just a very solid family that kind of put God in the center of life. I was, as I said, the oldest of 6 children. I had 2 additional brothers and three sisters. One sister who passed away in high school, but all the rest are have families and have done well. It's kind of interesting. I was the first college graduate in our family. So neither of my parents got degrees. They both took a few courses here and there, but we're kind of old school, and learned on the job, and but always aspire to have their children all become college graduates, and they have. I was the first, and most of their kids all ended up with very advanced degrees. What's kind of interesting is I ended up being a financial advisor, counseling people on their money. My brother ended up a priest, so counseling people on their soul. My sister ended up being a drug counselor. My brother, graphic designer and sort of a brand consultant, working with people, and then my youngest sister was a college counselor. So it's kind of odd. We all ended up being advisors in one form or another. And so that's been an interesting, my mom always, thought of herself as kind of a do-it-yourself shrink and like to get to people's soul. And so I'm not sure if that just sort of rubbed off on us all, but none of us make things. We're all really, in the business in one form or another of helping people, create their ideal future, whether that's through education or their soul, or in my case, their money, and and so on. So Yeah, so I went to NIU, Northern Illinois University. It's prior to that, I did community college for a couple of years. That was a stretch to be able to afford that, frankly. But parents helped out. Did a lot of odd jobs over the years, and was an entrepreneur from early on. I remember my first entrepreneur experience was at age 4. When I convinced my dad to buy a bag of circus peanuts, those orange peanuts, and then I put them in little baggies and gave them to him to take to work and sell at a markup. I'm thinking he just gave me some money and probably didn't actually go peddle those, but I didn't know any different. And then along the way, of course, I had paper routes. I started a T-shirt business, selling T-shirts in school. I just did a variety of things. I always kind of had this, thing about, making money and, kind of getting creative. And so it just sort of stuck. I mean, I guess that's kind of hardwired to this day. I finished my undergrad in finance and economics and was afraid to get a real job. So I did my MBA right away and did that. And then I started getting various degrees or other financial designations and did all that before I got married. Frankly, I kind of learned that, the education was important, but it's much about, just being confident. I kept doing that because I early on, I wasn't confident to go in the real world. I was kind of an introvert, or I thought I was. In retrospect, I'm actually an extrovert. I just didn't know how to be extroverted. So I think going to school and, getting all the letters after the names, frankly, that provided me the confidence necessary to then, to go out and, help people and, advise people.
Hey, wait, Brent, did you say that you were an introvert and you became an extrovert?
Well, I think in retrospect, I've always been an extrovert. I just didn't know how to do it. I was the guy at college that didn't know how to go talk to women, right? But I like being around people. I like going to parties. I like, the energy of being out in public. And I was just awkward, right? Just didn't really know how to do it, right? And so, I mean, nowadays, you can take all these different psychological tests. Clearly, I'm an extrovert, and I've kind of learned how to do that. I'm actually, good at sales. I'm good at people, but that wasn't necessarily apparent. I mean, growing up through school, high school, grade school, even in college, I was kind of like one of those quiet kids. Somebody that didn't necessarily want to be quiet, but was afraid to walk up to girls in the bar. I would have been the furthest thing from a ladies' man along the way, but not with that desire.
That's awesome. You think of people that are, a little shy about, jumping in the conversation or introvert, right? But I know you as an amazing relationship builder and from the time I've known you, right? For the last 15 years or 20, whatever, 15, 16 years I've known you, you love people and people love you because you're engaging, right? But at one point in your life, that wasn't you. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I think it just got unlocked at some point in time, and being the business we're in, advising people. One of the things I've come to realize is, now as I'm getting older, I've gotten more peers as clients. But early on, people my age didn't have any money, right? So you tended to have clients that were 10 or 15 years older, and so I think that was part of it. You got to learn how to build relationships with, people that were older than you. And, I saw that, kind of won over people's confidence. And, and then I think, it became a lot more comfortable, to get out of my skin and, sell and, promote. And, I think part of it is, as an entrepreneur, you got all these ideas in your head, you got, concepts. And so I think the goal of putting your ideas out there and being able to communicate them and getting people excited about them, you do that and it gives you energy back and it creates some success and you do it more, rinse and repeat.
Awesome. And when you when you got this business, Brent, I mean, as a young man, who are the mentors that your mom and dad on the they seem like they're the nurturing or the advising type of people, or they're always they probably they were thinkers, right? So they were able to think through issues no matter what they were, probably, and mentored you guys on getting through things on your own and all that, and they consulted you probably really well, so you guys liked that somehow and all became kind of consultative minds, right?
Yeah.
But who are your mentors, as a young man to get into this business and to grow like you did it? I met you. You're a young guy and already built a large business. You've gone further now, and really, this thing is just blown up as far as your business, and it's dominant in the Midwest and probably in the country now. But tell us about the mentors that gave you that confidence. I mean, confidence to communicate's great, right? But the confidence to jump in and risk everything you got to buy into a business and then buy out, like you just recently did, buy out your partners and do the things you've done. Who gave you the confidence in entrepreneurship and leadership as you have today?
So I've had a lot of mentors over the year. That's one of the things I attribute my success to. And I've kind of learned, different stages, you have different mentors, and you kind of download as much as you can, and then kind of mentors sort of fall off and you add new. I would say when I was at school, there was one professor in particular that coached me on it was a business plan course, and it was sort of a self-study, and I actually wrote the business plan for Savant, and he was somebody that was a sounding board, and I had worked in a small broker-dealer, very small financial services firm as an intern over the summer and got some ideas there. But then working with this professor, he provided ideas, and it was sort of the melding of academia, with a little bit of real world along with entrepreneurial, and literally built the business plan for Savant while I was working on my MBA. I ended up, and so I would say that was in the world of academia. He was kind of my first mentor. Then, my first boss was, again, this firm that was a small broker-dealer. When I say small, I was literally the financial planning, the compliance, the technology, marketing, and the accounting departments. And I started all this as an intern. Literally, his secretary taught me how to do T accounting. This was before I had my CPA. I really didn't know what I was doing, but they hired me to be their accountant for the summer.
That's funny.
So anyway, while I was there, I again, that was a lot of the inspiration. Some of the things I learned there was the inspiration for this business plan. And George had wanted me to stay on, when I graduated from my MBA, and he's like, but I don't know what to tell you to do. So, I said, well, okay, I can kind of help, bring some more sophistication to your marketing, and I can continue to do the accounting, and I can, wow, there's this Lotus 1-2-3, so the predecessor to Excel, and wow, you're doing financial planning on yellow pads. I could actually put some of that in spreadsheets and create models. Okay, I could do all this different stuff, but what I really want to do is I want to do this business plan. So I want to go in business with you, and you can own 51%, I own 49. I just need $5,000 and a little bit of your time, and I'll do all these other things for you, but I want to be able to carve out time to, build this other business within the business. And so he agreed to do that. Well, we were about a year and a half in, and I learned a ton, by the way. One of the things I did right, but I also turned out to be, it ended up getting me fired, was, when I came out, he's like, hey, I'll pay you $10 an hour, with some upside tied to you helping supercharge our business from a sales perspective, or I'll pay you, $15 an hour, but no upside. I'm like, I'll take that $10 an hour, with the upside. And, year and a half in, my compensation went from 20 grand to, over 60 grand. Just totally supercharged. I mean, I've put this kind of treadmill, going out and doing marketing and seminars and just like that, we were blowing it out. Well, so we're a year and a half in, my income went up a bunch, did all this crazy stuff with this business. And, what happened was I'm like, listen, we were going to do this business plan together. And I mean, that's why I came here. And so I pushed a little too hard one day. At the same time, he's like, Brent's comp went from 20 grand a year to over 60. I'm overpaying him and he's pushing me too hard. And I'm tired. I don't want to work this hard. And so he fired, and his kid also needed a job. He had been fired 3 times in a short period of time. Maybe it was 2 times. And needed a job. So just like that, guess what? The kid was in and I was out. And I was devastated. I was devastated. And it turned out to be a real blessing in disguise. But at the time it didn't feel that way. I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go look for a job. And I went knocking on doors and nobody gave me a job. So nobody gave me a job. I just, had this job I was loving. I was making money and I had this business plan. So finally, I had nothing to lose, frankly. And by the way, your question was about mentorship. The person I worked for, I ended up becoming friends with him again many years later, but I didn't like him for the longest time. But he was a great mentor. I mean, I learned so much from him, and frankly, I learned, what this opportunity was. And but he fired me. So I take my business plan, I start knocking on doors. I ended up meeting, Tom, who is my co-founder of Savant. He had 15 years, my senior, and sold insurance and had been doing this like fee-only financial planning, not managing money, but just sort of write prescriptions for people. And that was a hard business. So I ended up getting introduced to him through a family connection and said, hey, I got this business plan. What do you think about doing this with me? You keep doing what you're doing to pay your bills. We'll do this together. And so that was in end of 1992, and took that business plan, built it out. Took about 6 months to really, lay the foundation. And April in 1993 was when we got our first client, and started growing it from there.
Okay, so I got a couple of questions to go backwards a little bit. There's so many lessons here, Robbie, and I know you're an astute listener to this mindset that Brent has, right? But how cool is it when Brent, you look at Brent today, if you took your boat up to Brent's pier like I do every time I'm up there, sometimes I wake him up in the morning, sometimes I'm yelling at him, and when he's going to bed at night, and I go up to I take my boat up to the pier, and the first thing I yell is, "Yo, Brent! Brent, Sharon!" I'm sure I'm waking up the neighbors in the morning, or people are getting pissed at my screaming and stuff. My wife is always saying, "Gary, leave them alone again. You already bugged him today." Brent isn't. Brent can't come out every minute. Well, sure enough, every time Brent comes out, whether he's using his underwear or a bathing suit or whatever, Brent comes out to see us at the pier every time. Okay, but if I'm a kid looking at Brent's beautiful home on Lake Geneva, one of his homes right on Lake Geneva, it's an amazing place, right? And I'm probably thinking, where'd this son of a gun get all this dough to be able to afford this beautiful place? He's probably just had it handed to him, right? I mean, nobody can just plop a house like this on a beautiful lot and hadn't had it handed to him or gotten really lucky, right? But here, I can guarantee you, I know Brent's story, that this son of a gun, if you listen to what happened, worked for less than what he could make, knowing that there's some opportunity in that first job. And pushing the envelope a bit to that first partner, right? Got your ass fired, but in the long run, all good news, because that person probably wasn't the right fit for you to be a partner with or give you the latitude that your next partner gave you, I'm guessing. All right, but more importantly is one of the biggest traits of a winner is somebody that's always looking to deliver more than they're paid for, right? So in my opinion, anybody that's got a clock in their head about how much they're making and always says, gosh, I got to be worth more than that. I got to deliver more than I'm being paid for. And that was your mindset then, Brent, and I know for sure that's your mindset still today as a very successful leader in your space. I know you well. That's your mindset still today. And Robbie is the same way. Robbie, we recruited Robbie when he didn't have to come to work for a hillbilly outfit like the Rabine Group, right? He did because he saw opportunity, right? He could have made more money somewhere else, most likely. Robbie is like you, a mind that's always thinking about how he can be worth more than he's paid for. And again, that's a lesson I think that's huge. It's a trait that if you got it, you'll be successful your whole life. If you continue that mentality of, hey, man, what am I making? And am I worth that or more? to my partner, my boss, my customers, right? And if you can answer that question as yes every day, man, your value is going to be crazy. Robbie, chime in on that for me, will you, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Brent, I haven't had a chance to say thanks for joining today, so appreciate it. But yeah, I completely agree. So a little bit of context here was that I was working at LinkedIn for 4 years prior to joining Site Technologies, which was one of the startups that Gary and Austin and Olivia had actually founded about 3 or 3.5 years ago now. And I was at that point in my career where I realized, to me, what's most important is ultimately assuming a leadership role and helping understand what it takes to motivate others around you. And I do think that an element of that comes down to always operating under the assumption that you really can do more than your work for the organization. And ultimately, through that process, you up-level the entire group that surrounds you. And everyone becomes more motivated as a result of that. And ultimately, you accomplish your goals faster and you can set new goals faster. It's interesting to me that obviously you have that foundation, and part of that to me maybe coming from your upbringing and you always being raised in this advisory type of context, especially being surrounded with 5 other siblings and you being the oldest and having to lead that group just through your younger years. The part that is really, really interesting to me that I'd be curious to understand a little bit more specifics around would be that transition from introvert to extrovert. I think in a lot of individuals' minds would be an ideal state, but they don't understand how to make that transition. And obviously I understand you had mentioned that you started working with individuals that were 10 to 15 years older, and over time you gained more confidence. But I do think confidence can be sometimes almost a competitive advantage against some of your peers in the space. But from your perspective, are there specifics that maybe a listener on the podcast would be able to gather from you on how to make that transition, or what it is inside you? Maybe it's a quiet voice for the majority of your life that you finally just let out, or I guess curious to just understand more about that.
Yeah, I think preparation plays into this. I mean, in my case, I was, born into this sort of lower middle class family that worked really hard, but didn't really have, I was the first college graduate. So, a lot of it was just, gaining confidence by preparing, initially, getting an undergraduate degree. That doesn't really teach you anything. So all right, well, I'm still not confident. I'm going to get my MBA, and then I got my CFP and my CPA. I mean, at some point it's like, all right, I got to get in the real world. But the gist of it was like coming into my financial advisory, like I said, typically clients tend to be older than you, because again, people your own age don't have any money. So you need to work with older people, so part of it was, like in my case, it was gaining the degrees, gaining the ability to, convey ideas to them that they didn't have, even though they were older than me. I mean, one of the things I tell some of our younger advisors nowadays, and it's one of the things I've learned through School of Hard Knocks, is you don't have to have all the answers, okay? But you need to be confident and authentic and honest. So in other words, if I'm talking to somebody and they ask me a question, it's a question either I don't know or I don't even understand, it's okay to say, I don't know that, as long as, but I'll find out for you. And so I used to think like I had to have all the answers. No, you don't. You just need to know a little bit more than the person you're talking to, and that's the subject matter area. You need to be authentic. You need to be confident and willing to go do whatever preparation is necessary, whether that's researching something or finding a resource that is able to address the need. Gary, you talked about creating value, and I think there's so much to that. If we don't think about what's in it for us, or how much am I going to make, or what's my profit going to be, but rather say, how do I maximize the value? And you think of this in the context of a pie. Okay, create a really big pie, a really big cherry pie. Now, the good news is if you can, and that pie represents the value that you're confidently creating for others. And the beauty of it is if you make a big enough pie, create enough value, you can deliver more value to your client than they're going to pay you. Furthermore, you can benefit. You can have some of the pie. Furthermore, the company that you're working with, can have some left over. So the whole thing is create enough value so that everybody, you as a team member, your client who is paying you for a service or product, and the company for whom you're part of, all benefit. And in the long run, if you maximize value and everybody wins,
yep.
And that's sustainable, and that's something you can be proud of. That's something you can be confident in. You're not a charlatan. So I think that's what it's about. It's creating more so that everybody gets their share and everybody's, full.
100%. I love it. Create a big enough pie and a tasty enough pie that customer says, man, I got to get more of that pie, right? How do I get more of that, right? From my partner, Brent and Savant or whatever. And I love it. I agree with it 100%. I mean, our goal is always looking at the long term for our customers at every business we have, not the short term, right? I mean, we need to survive and make a profit, of course. But man, if you're just thinking about that, that's a problem. And in young business people, it's kind of tough, right? When I started my business, I had to make money or I didn't survive the next week because I couldn't make payroll. If I lost money on some big jobs over the course of a couple of weeks, man, I might not be in business a month from that time, right? So I kind of got focused as a young guy on, man, I got to make a profit. I got to make sure my gross margin is enough to recover my overhead, and the net margin is enough to continue on to buy equipment and do all these things I need to do to grow my business, right? And so there's a time, I think, for the first 10, 15 years of my businesses, right, where I wasn't focused on the long term as much as the short term, right? Job by job, week by week, month by month. And I think if I would have focused more like I have the last, let's say, 15, 20 years, where we definitely say, how do we make sure that customer feels value? How do we make sure that customer, really can't get a better partner in the space we're representing, right? Whether it's paving or roofing and all the things we do, how do we make sure our customer says, wow, that's value, right? And nowadays we focus on that first, and I can guarantee you, we're building way better relationships now than we ever have, because we can do that every day. And I think from the beginning we could have done that, as long as you have to have your eye on that gross margin and your overhead and your profit, of course, right? Because you need to be lean and mean for your customer. But boy, when you can focus on just relationship building, as you mentioned before, that consultative nature of your business and what you do, the consultative nature of what we do in every business is it's always for the best interest of the customer first. If you can do that every day, man, you're going to grow your business and have a great time doing it.